Sitting in an office chair in the middle of the street in 2013, Bobby Bennett was having a mental breakdown.
This is where my son's like.
Within 21 seconds after the responding Dallas police officer got out of his car, Bennett was hit with 4 rounds of bullets. Today, he is permanently disabled.
Did your son do anything at that point to cause these officers to fear for their lives?
None.
The officer faced 5 years to life in prison, but instead was offered a plea deal, gave up his police license, and received only 2 years probation.
This is a simple fact that this guy can never be an officer again. Is that justice for you and your family?
No, it's not justice. He belongs behind bars.
Tonight, we've analyzed hundreds of cases like that one. Some are well known, like the 2014 arrest of Sandra Bland. Others revealed for the first time in this KXAN investigation.
Police officers across Texas getting lesser punishments, most never spending a day behind bars.
All because when they break the law, they have something to bargain you and I don't, a badge. Here's KXAN investigator Jody Barr.
Okay. You can't take it.
This was the last time San Marcos Police Corporal James Palermo would ever make an arrest. Back in 2013, the 13-year police veteran arrested a Texas State University student who walked in front of his car during this traffic stop. What started as a lecture ended in charges of public intox and felony resisting arrest.
Okay. I told you to put your hands behind your back. Come on. Hands on the ground. Come on. Stand up.
The video shows Palermo slam the woman's face into the concrete so hard it broke 2 of her teeth and gave her a concussion. This wasn't the first time Palermo was accused of using too much force.
Dude, will you take me? On the ground. On the ground.
Just 2 months before the Texas State student's arrest, Tyler First found himself face-to-face with Corporal Palermo. First was already cuffed by another officer on a charge of criminal trespassing.
Had this been caught on my case, it would have saved her literally being injured.
The arresting officer asked Palermo for help. Dashcam video shows Palermo did exactly that.
I got a taser. No! Actually, you will be tased.
Which he then did off camera.
I told you not to move. I told you not to move. And you did move.
I was in custody. All he needed to do is just put me in a squad car and take me to jail. I honestly have no idea what his motive was. I guess he was just having a bad day or just doesn't like his job or something.
Investigators found this dashcam video while digging into other arrests Palermo made in the months before the Alexis Alpha assault. But prosecutors never charged Palermo in Tyler First's case. In the case where he slammed the young woman, he was indicted on a charge of aggravated assault by a public official. Palermo faced between 5 years and life in prison.
My initial impression when I watched that video was actually very shocking.
Prosecutor Brian Erskine says trying Palermo in Hays County, where jurors would likely sympathize with a police officer, could have ended in an acquittal, meaning Palermo would be back to policing the streets. So the DA's office offered him a deal to avoid prison: surrender his police license.
And that bargaining chip is a huge piece. It says you can no longer be that person. You will no longer be an authoritative person in a position to ever cause somebody harm like that again.
Deals like that happen a lot in Texas. Our 5-year analysis of nearly 300 criminally accused officers across the state who gave up their police license shows just 11 went to prison. In fact, the majority, 245, were able to leverage their license for a lesser sentence. And more than half of those cases were felony charges. Some avoided prosecution altogether. Coming up, an inmate scarred for life, and the Travis County jailer who burned him never spent a day in prison.
I feel like that wasn't justice at all. I mean, what does it take? Would it take for me to die in that cell for me to get proper justice?
Prosecutors say they're forced to make deals like this because of Texas law. So what are other states doing differently? Some people will look at this and say, a cop got a favor. Do you disagree with that?
I understand how the public would look at it. He didn't get a favor. He got what I knew I could prove.
Bargaining the badge, a KXAN investigation continues after the break. When it says what he's going to give up in this plea, surrender his license, his police license. Fair trade?
Most definitely not a fair trade.
So, yeah, we're going to try to take that license away if we have any leverage.
Texas peace officers who break the law getting plea deals most of us can't. Prosecutors tell us there's a good reason, even if it means these officers rarely end up in jail.
I dropped the mattress, but I had a blanket covering over me. After they shot the first shot, the blanket ignited. So I threw the blanket off of me, but it had caught on to my thermal pants and my thermal top.
Dacius Parker, now an inmate at a state prison near Wichita Falls, left the Travis County Jail in July 2015 with second-degree burns across his body.
So at the time, I'm trying to put the fire out on my arm and put the fire out on my legs. From there, it just went kind of bad.
It happened when jailer Dustin DeMolfi and the sheriff's extraction team were trying to force Parker from his cell. Instead of using tear gas like he was supposed to, DeMolfi admitted in this interrogation video that he grabbed a pyrotechnic round and fired it into Parker's cell.
I'm yelling, I'm screaming and telling the officers, I'm on fire, I'm on fire. And the officers are saying, oh, I thought you could take the gas. You know, they laugh and they thinking that it's just the gas that I'm talking about, but I'm actually on fire. My cell is actually on fire. So
were they mocking you?
They were mocking me. They were laughing.
2 years later, DeMolfi pleaded guilty to evidence tampering, not for setting the inmate on fire.
You realize you shot the wrong round. Oh, tried and made a bad mistake, man.
For taking evidence out of the jail after the fire, he could have faced 2 to 10 years in prison.
Okay, took the canister, took the clothes, and you're out. That's what I feel happened. I told you I didn't take anything out of that box.
But the Travis County DA's office made him a deal to surrender his police license and 3 years probation, which he finished in 2018 after serving only 5 months. Now, the case is dismissed. Are you satisfied with the outcome of that case?
Yeah, I think they got an appropriate disposition. I am looking at a young person in a corrections position who went into a courtroom and pled guilty to a felony, was placed on community supervision, and lost his career. So that's pretty strong punishment.
Travis County DA Margaret Moore says her office was in a tight spot. Juries, she says, are sympathetic to police officers, even toward officers charged with crimes.
That peace officer license is a very, very important consideration. And there are instances where the objective to do justice will give heavy weight to the surrender of that license.
Of the hundreds of cases we analyzed, very few officers served prison time. For those who do get jail time, giving up the license often helps reduce charges and time behind bars. One was San Antonio area school resource officer Manuel Hernandez. In 2014, prosecutors charged Hernandez with sexually assaulting a student on this campus. An assistant Barr County DA gave Hernandez a plea deal, reduced the charge to improper relationship between a student and educator, served 6 months in the county jail, and 10 years probation. Instead of the 2 to 20 years he originally faced, Hernandez also wouldn't have to register as a sex offender, and he'd have to give up his police license. What caused you all to downgrade the charge in this case?
The extra improper student-teacher relationship was a viable charge, and as I learned the case, learned the facts, I learned that we had no objective evidence of sex, just the allegation.
Harris thought a jury might not believe the student's testimony.
The one thing I couldn't risk was that guy being able to raise reasonable doubt in a jury on her claims.
He walks away with a lesser charge. He's not on the sex offender registry. He's no longer a cop. You think the public may have some trouble reconciling what this man said he did versus the punishment he got in the end?
Yes, as you pose the question, I'd be a fool to disregard it. We knew we had to get that guy out of our business.
Some people will look at this and say, a cop got a favor. Do you disagree with that?
I understand how the public would look at it. He didn't get a favor. He got what I knew I could prove. The things that were not negotiable was his pleading guilty. Was not negotiable was you ain't a cop no more.
In Texas, you most always need a conviction or a plea deal to take an officer's police license, but other states allow their police licensing boards to make that decision. Legally, TCOL cannot do that here in Texas, so we turned to a 2015 study to see what that distinction might mean. That year, 93 licenses were pulled in Texas. The states with the most licenses pulled were Georgia and Florida. Both have far fewer police as a whole compared to Texas, but they also took a lot more licenses from officers, 562 and 399. Their licensing boards have that power, and experts like St. Louis University law professor Roger Goldman say Texas's conviction hurdle is the reason its figure is so much lower. He spent 40 years researching decertifications in all 50 states and says the numbers in Texas would surge if Texas lawmakers allowed TCOL to strip police licenses.
There's no doubt in my mind that if you expanded the grounds for which you can lose a license, and particularly the commission of an act like perjury, sexual offenses, those sorts of things, you would have many, many more than 69 decertifications.
I'm an attorney, and if I commit malpractice, I have to pay the consequences of that. I can't just turn in my law license and, get away scot-free.
Does it appear that there is a two-tier system of justice here, one for police officers and one for everybody else?
Yes, absolutely. You and I, if we commit, these same crimes, we aren't able to get away with them just like these officers are.
Our investigation got the attention of Texas House Criminal Jurisprudence Committee member, Representative Jessica Gonzalez. Her staff took a look at our research and is already pulling records from TCOL on what we uncovered. Now, she says it's obvious something needs to be fixed. That fix, the representative tells me, might take changing Texas law to allow the state, instead of plea deals, to decide who holds a peace officer license.
Well, the problem there, lawmakers will be heading home in the next few days. Yeah. This won't happen anytime soon.
It won't. We're 18 months away from the next legislative session, 18 months away from any new bills. But we will definitely stay on top of this.
All right, Jody, thank you. And one of the state's largest law enforcement groups doesn't see Texas's current system as problematic. The leader of the Texas Municipal Police Association tells KXAN sometimes officers fail at their jobs, quote, because they are human, and that allowing TCOL to revoke licenses without a conviction would undermine the officer's fundamental rights.
Online now, our digital investigation, Bargaining the Badge, how hundreds of accused Texas officers avoid prison. A closer look at the dash camera and surveillance video from the cases we've dug through. A breakdown of the officers accused of sex crimes, violent crimes, and corruption. Plus, extended interviews for you to watch.
Some people have looked at this and said this is simply a get-out-of-jail-free card. Do you see it any other way?
No, I mean, I feel like that is what was on the table to avoid any prosecution against him, and that's what he took. That was the easy road out.
Shane, when you say leverage, that meant that police officer license could have helped you through the plea negotiations with the prosecutor, meaning if you give that up, it could have
dismissed the case.
And that happened.
Yes, that happened.
We also show you how to find the police licenses that have been surrendered inside your local law enforcement agency. It's all online now in the investigative section of KXAN.com.